a dog understands that. Like a dog knows if you're dominant or friendly or, whatever. Children know that. They know if you're safe or not, for example, if you're caring, if you're protective. I guess the embodiment insight is it also works the other way. Do a few star jumps and then tell me you're depressed.
Yeah.
It's impossible. There's a way of being that's being built with our embodied practices. And you see that, I guess, good example of that, Zuckerberg, right?
Yeah.
Completely out of his head, geeky kind of guy, kind of weak. And, he started doing MMA, started doing jiu-jitsu. He's had a total transformation.
Yeah.
He looks like a human being now, not a robot.
Yeah.
Utterly, much more masculine. Even his politics is changing, his mindset's changing. Because, how we think, how we see the world, how we relate, that all comes through the body.
This is going to be a juicy podcast. I'm interviewing Mark Walsh. Mark is an embodiment coach. We'll talk about what that means in a moment. He's actually one of the world's most prominent embodiment coaches. He's a guy that was one of the early kind of embodiment coaches, and he's really done some great work in the world around that topic. And he's also an author as well. He's written 3 books, and I've read 2 of them. We've never met before, but I'm really delighted to be joined by Mark this afternoon in Bath. Mark, what are you checking in with?
Nice to see you. It's been a long week. I think we're going to get on well looking at your stuff. So, yeah, pleased to be here.
Good, me too. And I thought you was a lot taller than me, and you're not a lot taller than me. You're just a little bit taller than me.
I get that a lot. It's an embodiment thing. People who haven't seen me in ages, they say, "Oh, I forgot you were short." And what it is I've got what we say a big personality. It's a good example of embodiment in that I take up space as a person. I'm used to teaching on stages, and I work with loads of kids, and I've worked with big audiences, so I've got a certain oomph. Yeah, and what that means is people remember me big, and then when they meet me, they're like, "Oh, you're little." Yeah. And they're always kind of surprised because they remember the embodiment. They don't remember the actual physical size.
Well, it's good to meet you, mate.
Nice to meet you.
I think I came across your work about 5 years ago, and I bought kind of a bundle of your presentations, talks, exercises online at the time when I was doing more embodiment work within my field of work, and it was really, really helpful. And I've been watching you from afar, and it's a privilege to interview you today.
Good to be here.
So, I'm a man, you're a man. I work predominantly with men as a leadership coach. I know that you've got a passion for working with men. I've heard some of your posts and your podcasts, and one of the, I guess, topics of men's work these days is getting out your head and getting in your body.
Yep.
Getting out your head and opening your heart. How would you work with a guy? If I came to you and I'm a guy and I say, right, my missus keeps telling me I need to get out of my head and in my heart. I just don't know what the fuck she's going on about. Like, my missus tells me that she wants me to stop fixing her. She wants me to validate her emotions. I have to validate my own emotions before I can do that. Like, how would you work with me initially if I said to you, Mark, I'm always in my fucking head, mate. I need to get into my body.
Yeah. If someone already understands that's necessary, then you don't have to have the kind of intellectual, this is the reason why embodiment matters, and it's the foundation of our, leadership or emotional intelligence or whatever.
Yeah.
I just get them doing something. So there's lots of embodied practices out there.
Yeah.
I started with Aikido, martial arts, for example.
Yeah.
I've done conscious dance, yoga. There's all sorts of, improv. There's all sorts of great practices. Usually I'd start guys with whatever appeals to them, because the best practice is the one you do. And for example, a lot of the young guys at the moment, I just take them to the gym. And the reason is that's not weird. It's not hippie.
Yeah.
I lift weights. A lot of young guys, they do that. They look up to Chris Bumstead or whoever as a, bodybuilder, weight trainer. And then in that context, we can bring in other things.
Yeah.
And the big thing is, like, you're not just lifting your weights, watching the TV, you're feeling your body, you're in your body.
Yeah.
And then we can look at, all right, what's the embodiment you're developing? So that means not just the physical body, like your pecs, your triceps or something, right?
Yeah.
But the way of being you're developing through the body. So embodiment concerns the body as, let's say, subject, not object. Right, so we talk about objectification. No one really wants to be thought of as an object. Men tend to objectify ourselves rather, with women it's more sexually. With men it's more like work. We treat ourselves like machines in this industrial era that can just be pushed harder. And, you know, men sooner or later hit a limit with that. Maybe in middle age, for example, they realize they can't just keep pushing themselves like an object. Maybe they get tired of being treated like an object and treated like a cash machine or whatever it is. And so the embodied approach is treating the body as part of who you are. And whatever brings you back into your body is helpful. So any practice, could be weightlifting, could be martial arts, they're great ones. And the other one would be nature. So as soon as you get guys outside, boom, they drop in their bodies like way easier.
It's so refreshing for me. I mean, I do want to pick your brains as we go along and dig into some of your subtle skills that you've got, because I know there's a lot. But it's so refreshing for me to hear you talk about weightlifting.
Yeah.
My background is actually in strength and conditioning. I was a strength and conditioning coach for many years in professional rugby. And, you know, I tell my male clients all the time, you know, go to the gym. It's a sacred practice. You bring in intention. You focus your attention on what you're actually doing and how it feels in your body. And you really kind of get in touch with the emotional component of that. How's that working out for you? I saw on social media not long ago that you've over the recent years got into weightlifting yourself as well. How's that been for you, and how has it shaped your work?
I love it. I mean, I love just the way it makes me feel straight away. You know, I mean, this isn't, in terms of weightlifting as a holistic practice, I mean, this goes back to the Greeks. You know, this isn't a new idea. The gymnasia was a philosophical, holistic kind of place. This isn't a new concept. But I think that's kind of gotten lost.
And an expression of divine potential too, right?
Yeah, there's a spirituality to it. There's a communal kind of element to it. There's, you know, a whole bunch of different stuff going on that's more than just physical as we would understand it. Since then, the sort of body-mind split, people would go, okay, that's more just a physical thing. So for me, what I like about it is it's simple in the sense, and it's accessible. So I've done all sorts of things, but for me, let's say I want to do Aikido. It has to be the right Aikido club, the right Aikido teacher, have to be available on a Tuesday night at 7 p.m. And then if I want to bring a lad along, he's got to get past the sort of Japanese-ness of it, and they're all wearing skirts, you know, the hakamas, and it's kind of esoteric. Whereas weights is just in the culture, and it's just normal. So I think practically I travel a lot to teach. It's just great. So a few years ago, I always did body weight through like yoga and martial arts, and then a few years ago I was like, I got over sort of snobbery to start going to the gym. I love the way it makes you feel as well. I mean, you know, mental health is a huge issue amongst young men, and try being depressed while doing an overhead press. You can't do it. It's just, you immediately change the state like that. So you've got, as a coach, I just found it incredibly easy to coach people in the gym. One, because you could change state really easily. Two, you had this like practice to do something around, and particularly guys, they don't necessarily like being stared at. And even how we've got the chairs angled, it's more comfortable for guys. It's like me, you, and the podcast. Right? It's like a third point. Whereas with a guy, it's like young guy, me and him in the gym, and we're just doing weights. Then I can chat between sets. You know, it's very relaxed, and he doesn't feel the pressure he might feel in a more like therapeutic context, for example. I mean, that from parents, they say all the time, I had the best conversation with my teenager while I was driving. It's like, because you weren't staring at him. Side to side. Do you know what I mean? That shoulder to shoulder is a very kind of masculine way of bonding. And around a third thing. I think the other one is just a lot of people feel very disempowered, and your masculinity itself has been disempowered, I would argue. And the most fundamental way of reorganizing that is moving a heavy thing from A to B. You know, on a very simple level, that's giving you a sense of, I am a physical person with the ability to change the world, very literally. And there's a very honest feedback loop in that. And then, of course, the other one is it teaches people to deal with difficulty.
Overcoming a challenge, which is what every man needs, right?
Right, because, you know, essentially we are in this kind of period of history which is quite, let's say, soft, quite decadent, we could say, if we look at historical cycles. And my granddad was on this sort of fishing boat in the Irish Sea. He didn't need to toughen up. It was tough, you know, put a nail through his hand and wouldn't go to hospital kind of thing. You know, it's just like tough as nails. My dad's generation, a little bit different. My generation, softer. Generation younger, even softer. The problems we have is that, in a way, life isn't difficult enough physically to build the virtue of dealing with adversity. So we need to, in a non-traumatic, calibrated way, expose ourselves to difficulty. And weightlifting is a really safe, accessible. You could do breath hold, you could do cold immersions, to do that. So I just think that's just wonderful that there's this practice that can build virtue, to use sort of Greek terminology, so easily, so accessible. And then everything else comes with that. Like the young guys, they start eating better because they're going to the gym. Or they're like, I say, well, you've worked out, but unless you sleep well, you're going to ruin all you're going to, lose your gains. Yeah. And they say, well, how do I sleep well? I'm like, well, you got to turn your phone off at night, and that's good for their mental health, Yeah. So it kind of has this knock on,
of course,
because they want that physical goal. And it's, how can I put this? It's very, it's an immediate feedback. So not long ago, my girlfriend started coming to the gym with me just to hang out. And after a few weeks, she's like, I can lift more weight. And she'd put another thing on she's I was doing 10 kilos, now I'm doing 15.
Yeah.
And you could see her, and she's a sophisticated professional woman, but that very objective feedback that you got better at something is just encouraging. Yeah. And then people take that into the rest of their lives.
Yeah, wonderful. It's interesting you talk about breath holds as well. One of the things that I do with my clients that I love, especially the ones that can't find time to meditate, is we don't rest on time, we rest on breaths.
Okay.
So in a rest between sets, it might be you've got 20 breaths as slow as possible instead of a 2 minutes rest. And that's a beautiful way of embodying some kind of meditative practice into weightlifting.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of habit stacking,
Habit stacking. You're going to become aware of the breath in weightlifting. And as an embodiment teacher, almost every embodied practice has the breath at core. Yeah. And you will see that within a gym, you'll see that within a dojo, you'll see that in a yogashala, you'll see that in all contexts. And these days I've done all these practices. I love them all. I'm happy doing conscious dance with the hippies.
Me too.
Love it. It's good fun.
Me too.
That loosens everything up after lifting. I'm happy doing martial arts, do a bit of boxing, whatever. And I always say, like, if you're doing something with your body to feel your body to move, great. That's like level 1. Like if someone's doing nothing, they're just working a computer job or whatever. So just walk in nature. I do that a lot, or just do something. And then a little bit more sophisticated might be someone that says, well, I'm doing something with my body, but I'm lacking this embodied capacity. So they might lack fierceness, but have lots of sensitivity, or the other way around. Yeah. And then we might be a little bit more targeted and saying, you know what, maybe, you've done boxing for years, that's great, but maybe learn to dance. Or you've done dance for years, that's great, maybe learn to box. Yeah. And, offer them some choices around that.
I hear you completely. I remember 14 years ago, I'm on a tantra retreat with my ex-wife.
Okay.
And we do offshore dynamic meditation for the first time. Yeah. Now, I'd grown up in a rugby environment, and I was bullied as a kid, and my brother went in the army when I was 8. I was like an only child. My mum taught me to fucking fight for myself, etc. So I was so linear in the way I thought, my mindset, my goals, the way I exercised, linear, so linear. Yeah. You put me in an offshore dynamic meditation, I couldn't move. My nervous system froze, and I was like, shame came. I was like, what the fuck is going on? It's the same thing happened to my nephew when he came on one of my retreats. Fast forward 14 years, I love to go to the gym, I love to run, and I love to dance. How wonderful is it as a man to be able to move in that way, but also move in that way?
Yes.
But how do we... Like I can say, a client comes to me, Mark, and he's obviously a control freak. He tries to control his life from the day he wakes up to the day he goes to bed. He's got metrics, measurements, ticks everything off. And slowly but surely, he expresses an interest to let go of that control and be a bit more spontaneous. Yeah. I guess my question here is, because I'm also into embodiment, but I want to know on a deeper level from an expert like you. If I step away from that linearity, or I just turn it down a little bit, and I learn how to move my body in non-linear ways and spontaneous ways, maybe that's some kind of dance, maybe it's some kind of animal flow. Even.
Sure.
Why? How is that going to change my thought patterns, my emotional intelligence, the way I act in the world?
Yeah. I mean, in a way, embodiment's common sense, right? Like we understand that a body expresses how someone is. And, people understand body language and that kind of thing. A dog understands that. Like a dog knows if you're dominant or friendly or, whatever. Children know that. They know if you're safe or not, for example, if you're caring, if you're protective. I guess the embodiment insight is it also works the other way. Do a few star jumps and then tell me you're depressed.
Yeah.
It's impossible. There's a way of being that's being built with our embodied practices. And you see that, I guess, good example of that, Zuckerberg, right?
Yeah.
Completely out of his head, geeky kind of guy, kind of weak. And, he started doing MMA, started doing jiu-jitsu. He's had a total transformation.
Yeah.
He looks like a human being now, not a robot.
Yeah.
Utterly, much more masculine. Even his politics is changing, his mindset's changing. Because, how we think, how we see the world, how we relate, that all comes through the body. Now, he's done it, I think, pretty much accidentally. He's essentially had a personality transformation in the last year, as far as I can tell. I'm just using him as an example rather than a client because he's well-known. I think I'd say as well, like to people, like try it out. If you're a control freak and you want to be a bit looser. Now, it's got to be calibrated. We've got to find something that doesn't just freak people out. Maybe there's trauma patterns. Maybe, some people are more conservative or whatever. If we're working with soldiers or police, it might be just a movement pattern, like you say, animal flow. It's still like fitness, but it's just a bit more free.
Yeah.
Or it might be the sort of, if they're willing to go to Bali and go crazy with the hippies, go full on.
Like a 5 rhythms or an ecstatic dance or something.
Great, exactly. Yeah, I do that, and, Friday night kind of thing.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's good fun. And, I do that about once a week, and it just loosens me up from being like business guy, serious, results, getting things done.
Yeah.
And it's the culture you're in as well, for example, I did Aikido in Japan, and as soon as you're in the dojo, you sit up straight. There's a embodiment that comes just with being in that place and the aesthetic and the culture and the other people. Yeah. And the same if you're doing conscious dance in Bali. The same if you're at a good yoga studio. There's a culture you walk into. Like, I used to live above a nightclub in the slums of Brazil, right? And I just got looser, I got back and my mum was like, "Where did you get those hips?"
Could you hear the music from your place?
It was, it was underneath me. I mean, I was sleeping there, and the music was coming through the floor. And I was actually at an Aikido club, but there was beer in the fridge, and the Brazilians were around partying the whole time, like kind of how you might imagine Brazilians being. And it was just loosened me up, spending 6 months in that environment, and because part of it's cultural. I came with that like English embodiment. I've got a little bit of Irish in my family, so my whole lot of Irish, but it's a bit of both. But living in different places is also part of it. Like you mentioned to me, you've had a Polish wife, I had a Ukrainian wife. Yeah. That East European, still, there's a particular kind of embodiment.
Yeah, of course.
Some of that's trauma, some of it's culture.
Yeah.
I find that stuff fascinating.
Me too. How do you define the word embodiment? Like, how do you define it? Like, let's say I'm a man and I want some help. I can go to a therapist. I can go to an embodiment coach. Yeah. I can go to a meditation teacher. Like, if I want to work with you and I say, Mark, I've seen you on YouTube. I like your stuff. How do I explain to my missus what an embodiment coach is?
Yeah, sure. I mean, mostly people come and they've got, I train other embodiment coaches, but in terms of people come, it's more like a leadership thing. So they're in their heads and they're not very dynamic. Or it's a boundaries thing. They're just not very well boundaried. Or life purpose. They haven't got a sense of passion. Yeah. So they're more like the things they're coming with. If someone wanted to explain it, I'd just say getting in your body, getting out your head. Yeah. Or you could say, depends on who they are. Because, for example, when I worked in business, we'd say, well, it's a type.
Why would I need to get out my head into my body? Now I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, sure. Because again, it depends what the issue is, right? But if somebody, who am I talking to? Because this is why there's not one answer to this. It's like asking what is love. Do you want the poetic definition? Do you want the biochemical definition?
Yeah, give me a general definition, and then I want to go into presenting with different types of men.
There's a few things. So the definition will be the subjective study of the body. The simplest way to say that is how we are. And I could break that down more, so it's the, philosophically, if someone was more intellectual, I'd say it's the study of relational ontology. You could go into more philosophical, Nietzsche or something like that. Yeah. It's type of intelligence. So in business, I define it as 8 different competencies like self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, influence. So define it like Daniel Goleman would define embodied intelligence.
Yeah.
We could say it's a collection of practices. So this is, we've just been talking about all these different practices.
Yeah.
So if somebody was already doing yoga, I'd say, well, you already do yoga. And then we could open up, say, but what about conscious arts? What about martial arts? We could open up some of those other practices. But yeah, I mean, the subjective study of the body is the simple definition.
Yeah, okay. Are you okay if I bring some kind of different men to you?
Yeah. It's right. It's all good.
Okay, so I'm fucking sick of being small. I got bullied as a kid.
Yeah.
Dad spoke over me.
Yeah.
Sometimes raised his hand.
Yeah.
I project greatness onto people. I've not owned my own greatness.
Yeah.
I've had enough. I've got a gift to share in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I'm sick of being fucking small.
Yeah.
I've got a rebel in me at the moment.
Yeah.
I really wanna fucking show up in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few things going on there, right? Like there's the rebel, that's the kind of pushback. That's a somatic thing we could explore. And, we could do it more to bring it out. We could do it or the opposite of it, right? We could explore it in different ways.
So you could work on the pushback to bring the rebel out.
Yeah, I might. If I was working in person, I might have that person physically
like channel anger and stuff like that, or channel my power.
Yeah, it's not really about channeling anything. It's about showing the pattern that they do.
Okay.
So all the embodiment work's about awareness and choice, right? So first thing is be aware of what you're doing. So in that persona, there's a pushback. Irish cultural background, I recognize that one. It's like, raw, there's that one. And then you're also talking about taking up space.
Yeah.
And then also you're alluding to a potential trauma background around that, right? So there's potential trauma work there as well, which is part of the embodiment field. So, if someone's like, I'm playing it small, normally this is the embodiment.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, I'm not very good at this. And it's like, okay, so let's stand or sit in a position that takes up more space.
Yeah.
And it's like, how's that? And that might be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And we might give them a practice around that. We might give them practice in the gym where they have to do, weights in a certain way.
Yeah.
Or maybe their issue is boundaries. So we get them bench pressing and we could do that push away movement.
Wonderful.
So we link.
So you
all
make
these
it as
things.
real life as possible to the way they live.
Yeah. So we first of all do something safe, controlled, where they can explore the pattern. We don't really go into the history of it so much. That's between them and their therapist.
Yeah.
And then we might ask, well, what do you want to practice? Yeah. So your current way of being. First thing is awareness, right? Like I've had business guys come to me and say, why are all my staff scared of me? And they just don't have any awareness. They're just giving off aggression the whole time.
Yeah.
Or why am I always ignored in the business meetings?
Yeah.
They've got no awareness. So I might have to show them that, video them, give them options. And then how do we give them a new choice? So for a lot of them, it often starts just with what we call centering. It often starts with just basic stress management.
Yeah.
Like most people are just fried.
Yeah, relaxation is the first step, isn't it?
Often, yeah, because people are just in that fight-flight response.
Yeah.
Most of my clients call me up. It's a madhouse out there.
Yeah.
I mean, this culture just generally is very dysregulating for people as it currently exists.
Yeah.
For many different reasons we can get into if you want. But when they come, I'm just like, take a deep breath. And I'm not even doing anything sophisticated. Just like, John, put your feet on the floor, bend your knees for a minute. Put your hand on your belly, take a couple of nice deep breaths. Okay, tell me again what you want to get from the coaching session.
Yeah.
I teach coaches that when I'm training coaches, and they're like, wow. Because it's like they have all these clever questions as a coach, but they're all cognitive. And if someone's stressed out, they're not going to have any good ideas. They're not going. The whole point of coaching is to have new solutions, right?
Yeah.
So if you're in the old embodiment, you won't have new solutions. Whereas if we can shift your embodiment, you'll have some new ideas. I mean, I always say to people, where do you have your best ideas? And I've asked this all over the world. And people always say, walking in nature, in the shower, maybe on the toilet. Okay, there's a couple of others, but they're the main 3.
Yeah.
Why? People are relaxed. People are in their bodies. Yeah, but we always do coaching, sat down in chairs, not moving.
Of course.
And, people are stressed, people are anxious. I do a lot of coaching, walking,
Me too.
On the phone.
Me too, in nature as well.
Yeah.
Using metaphors of nature.
Yeah, that helps. Nature's a big support when it comes to embodiment. It really is.
So, Mark, you mentioned being big. If I'm prone to being small, and you've listened to my language, and it's obvious that it's coming through my language. But we need practice, right? Otherwise, we're just changing state.
Exactly.
Can you talk a bit about the importance of practice and how that can rewire the nervous system?
Yeah, it's a good distinction. I mean, you're already there. So there's state and trait, right? And state is brilliant because it's a quick win. and most people are stressed, so you can just take a breath or whatever, do a different posture. Trait is what happens when you do state enough. So it's like practice is, let me just double check. It sort of goes back to this British verb, English verb to learn. So we have one verb for many things. Yeah, and we have privileged what John Vervaeke, who's a cognitive scientist, would call a particular way of learning, like propositional knowing. There's actually other ways of knowing. So it's like if somebody said, I've read a lot of good books on kissing, that you'd be like, well, so what, right? Because you understand that is a skill, that is something you experience, that's something you make mistakes with, and you learn that way. So more things in leadership and coaching and all the areas, men's work, whatever, and more skills that you need to practice. Like that's how you get good at anything. So, maybe the taking up space is just a little thing they do once a day for a minute, but they're really focusing on it and they're doing it every single day or 5 days a week.
Yeah.
With busy clients, I might just give them 3 minutes of practice, but it's really dedicated, concentrated, and over 2 to 3 months.
So you're microdosing?
You're microdosing, but very regular, and then they're building that. And then we start to look at how they can apply it. What most people try and do is they don't do what sports people do. Sports people are really easy to train because they understand training. Business people are much harder. Yeah. Sports people are like, okay, what are the reps, boss? What am I doing, coach? They're brilliant to train. Yeah. But dancers too. But business people, they just want to perform, and they don't ever train. Yeah. It's the opposite of sports people. They spend 90% of the time performing. So what most people are trying to do is try and do it when they remember with their kids or in business. Yeah. Actually, they need that little island that's separate from that. But then we link it. So we start giving them reminders and little things they can do. And, one woman just had something that was a little sticker on her computer. Just little ways to remember the practice.
Of course. Yeah. All right. Next man's come through the door.
Okay.
Trevor. Mark, fucking hell. Whenever my missus exposes something in me, I'm so fucking defensive. I wish I wasn't. My fucking dad did the same when he was growing up. I remember watching my dad as a kid. My mum would poke something within him. He'd flip it back. Yeah. He didn't want to feel his shame. She felt shame. He'd wrong her when when he perceived that he was wrong. And it happens to me less and less, but it's still happening. Yeah. And I'm on the edge of divorce if it doesn't change.
Yeah.
It's just in that moment I'm reactive, and I want to catch it and breathe and bring some choice and respond in a healthy way. And I've not cracked it.
Yeah.
Can you help me?
A few things, yes. So a few things there. Like one would be we'd probably give them a meditation practice, 10 minutes a day, just as a way of creating a little bit of a pause between the stimulus and the response, so they can be more responsive, less reactive. So that little pause is a big deal if he already knows what the problem is. The other one is we practice, right? Like what we do is create simulators. So I'd poke the guy. Either physically or verbally, I'd actually, rather than try and unearth the story, because people talk endlessly about the story, and they, particularly like American therapy culture, they've heard this, and it's my mum, and this, and that, and you're talking about men's groups where everyone just talked, right? And then you realize, actually, it's the practice.
Of course.
So we'd create a simulator for that's in a really calibrated way. So the problem with life is it comes randomly, comes when you're tired, comes too fast, too hard, not enough sometimes to practice, right? Yeah. So you want to be in that sweet spot of learning, and that's what a coach can do. They go, right, you get defensive. What's the kind of thing she would say? Yeah. She would make this face or this noise or say this. She'd criticize my, my clothes or whatever, right? Yeah. Then we'd set that up as a simulator. I'd get him to slow down. Maybe he comes forward in his body. Yeah. And then we'd say, okay, so notice you come forward. So feel your back on the chair. Relax your belly. All right, let's try again. And this time, keep your back on the back of the chair. Yeah. So you're not going into that reactive body.
It is actually something that I do. Yeah. I edge forward.
Yeah. And that is a pattern for, a lot of guys, in that fight response where we're pushing back. Yeah. Defensiveness is just fight response, right? So
it's not nice for the woman though, is it? Like I'm sometimes unaware of that, but if they can feel my charge coming forward.
Women, kids, dogs, they're all very sensitive to embodiment. I think we all are, but you can tighten your mouth muscles slightly and you ain't getting laid tonight. You can make one little movement like that, and most women are sensitive. They'll pick up on it and they'll feel. And this is what people call like energy or something like that. And someone might not consciously realize it. They'll just close, for example. They won't feel turned on, or they won't. They won't be relaxed. So
I remember going to a David Deida
David Davis
retreat a number of years ago.
Yeah.
It was the last one he ever did in Colorado.
Okay, wow.
And in the evening, it was all men's work in the daytime, and in the evening time, they'd bring his trained tantrikas on stage, and they'd judge us on our presence. Fucking hell, like 5, 4, relax your mouth, soften your eyes, drop your shoulders. That's an 8.
There we go. Amazing. No, it's brutal, that kind of work. I've done it, but it's hard feedback, you know.
And there was a scenario which, you mentioned kind of role play, didn't you? And there was a scenario on the last day where I had 3 women screaming at me, getting angry, calling me pathetic. One of them spat on me on request. Oh man, and it was just.
And you had to be non-reactive.
I had to keep regulating.
Yeah.
But that role play is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more than role play in a way. You know, it's real play because when someone's screaming at you or spitting on you or whatever, you don't. And I'd say the key thing here is, for anyone watching, is that it's always consent and there's always calibration, which means not too much, not too little, right? So there's always choice, and we start very gently. And if I'm working with people with trauma background, my teacher, Paul Linden, would throw Kleenex at people. Real gentle. No one's getting freaked out. We're not even doing grabs or shouts. So you might build up to that. And your nervous system doesn't know the difference. If I scream in someone's face, they're not they understand logically that it's just an exercise, but their body doesn't understand that.
Yeah.
Your body reacts like a dog reacts, which is to the energy, to the tone, to the volume.
Yeah.
So, that's the only way to train. And people know this, like the military know this, right? Like in the military, they'll teach you how to do a bandage, right? And then they'll shout at you while doing the bandage. And then they'll take you to the gun range. You have to do the bandage while there's guns going off. Because they know if they don't do that, when they're on the battlefield, it all just goes. So they learn a skill and then they add the pressure gradually. Yeah. So.
Okay. Dave's just come in the room. Here's another guy.
Okay.
Wants to speak to you. So I'm Dave. Fucking hell. I don't know why I do it, but I can't say no. I'm sick of saying yeah. I say yes, and then I get pissed off. I'm so fucking angry. I'm so nice.
Yeah.
And I'm just afraid to upset people.
Super common. So, currently our cheapest Facebook ad is for a people-pleasing book because it's such a common issue. I ended up writing a book on it because people kept asking for it. I get more from women than men, but men too. First thing I'd explain is just normalize around, this is our conditioning. When people have got kids, they don't really want the kids to say no because they've got to get them out of the house to go to school or, do you know what I mean? They just try to, so it's not something we're really taught. And that sort of fawn response is very, very human, unless you're psychopathic. We all have some urge to please people, to be social. So I kind of normalize it as that and just say, look, and, this has maybe become too much of a pattern. It's always like yesterday's solutions are today's problems, right? So it's like, there might have been a traumatic history that was how they stayed safe. We should really respect that. Yeah. And it even, sometimes we call it trauma superpowers, it even becomes a real strength for that person. They might be really agreeable and amiable and really friendly. So we don't make that bad. That's the first thing. Yeah. We say, okay, just look at it for a very mundane lens. What's the skill you need to learn? Say no. Right. Sometimes it's ask for help as well. They might have a first skill, which is even just to know what they want. Yeah. So when I have people with boundary issues, I might say, right, every time it's meal time and you're with your partner and they say, do you want this? Just actually take a moment to feel and go, do I want that? Yeah. Like, or you asked me earlier, like, hey, are you okay? You're going a bit later because we had to let the cameras cool down. Yeah. It's like, it just took me just a second just to check in. Like, I think I'm good. I'm tired, but it's all right. It's all good. I got nothing after this. Yeah. So you're starting to help them check in with themselves before making decisions. Yeah. And then the boundaries piece, we've got a no pose they can practice. As a coach, I might push on their hand. Yeah. I might get them doing push-ups, or if they do yoga, chaturangas, or bench press, or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. And actually find the embodiment of no, because the issue is not the word. The issue is that they can't find that embodiment when they need it. And then we practice. And
so what does a no feel like in your body?
Yeah, how do you do know in your body?
How do you do know, yeah.
Yeah. So they feel it and they also are practicing it. We give them practice. If I'm coaching someone after 2 or 3 sessions, I might do a session every 2 weeks for half an hour or something. They'll come back and, oh my God, you never guess what happened. My boyfriend said this, or my mum wanted me to go for dinner and I said no. And it just doesn't take long and it's just really nice. I love the people get empowered quite quickly on that stuff. It doesn't take years, it takes weeks, not years.
Yeah, wonderful. I'm trying to relate things to my work because I want to squeeze as much as I can out of you. That's why I love doing podcasts. To be honest,
no, it's good. No, I do podcasts. It's really nice to learn.
Because when you work in our field, there's not. I'm with clients all the time. I don't learn from people, so I'm learning from you. We live in a society now where even if the father was around, there's a lot of men and women gone through childhood without really being fully seen, without really being blessed by that father energy. So if I say to you, Mark, I've been in therapy for 2 years, and I know all the stuff around my father and stuff like that. He wasn't around, and sometimes I can't get my shit together. I'm prone to addictions, and sometimes I don't feel like a man. Is there anything you can do with me?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing...
I know that's a tough one. I apologise.
No, I mean, I'd probably want to go, well, what's the specific problem? But, I mean, let's just look at the frame here first, right? So the first thing is just normalization, making people not, helping people not feel guilty. We are in an emasculated society where the culture makes men either bad or weak and ridiculous. The Homer Simpsons or, whatever. You see this in so much media, so much TV, so much advertising. Particularly white guys, it's just demonized to the point where it's absolutely absurd. And there's a historical precedent for this as societies go into decadence. This tends to happen. And I'd first of all, I'd just point that out, and I'd say, okay, did anyone teach you that? And some of this comes just from industrialization, where men were taken away from sons. Most schools are run by women. Most therapists are women. It's like, well, who are their male role models? It's so important we have organizations for boys and young men. Warren Farrell's great on this. He's way more eloquent than I am on this topic, that really looks at the boy crisis and how that is. And we had him on the podcast as well.
His book's that bit thick, isn't it? I've got that.
Just get him on the podcast. He's also, you can send his stuff to like female friends. He's very chill, very female friendly. He's not misogynistic, and his stuff's very accessible. But that is the world we're in. And at the same time, we're being told it's the patriarchy and that men are oppressing women. And that's a piss take. Excuse my language here, but it's like, particularly for young men who don't have economic opportunities, they can't get a date because of the nature of sort of dating apps. They're absolutely pissed on by society. So, I mean, that's our starting point, right? So any technique I offer, that's the foundation we're in. That's the world we're in. So that's the first thing, I'd say there. And then we could break it down and say, okay, what are the actual embodied capacities you would like? And strength's a pretty good place to start in terms of recontacting that raw, basic masculinity. And then, of course, we don't want to leave it at the physical because, you can't define masculinity by physical strength, but it's about sort of, we could say, strength to all the chakras to sort of mix the yoga model in. Then we bring in the emotional strength, the relational strength. For me, service needs to be a big part of it. Men need a cause. They need
for sure
meaning in life. They need something worth dying for, frankly.
They need a fucking challenge, don't they?
They need a challenge and they need meaning. They need something that's bigger than them. John Vervaeke would say, what do you want to survive after you die? I think this existential challenge, the facing of death, which I've had in my life, is absolutely critical, critical. They need a community of men rather than trying to get all their intimacy just from women. I mean, these are the absolute basics of it. And, we live in a postmodern world which is which is not just forgotten, but actively repressed goodness, truth, and beauty, the sort of classic values of the West. And they need to find their own version of goodness. What is it to be good? Because what's the alternative? You need something that's good and bad in your life. Nietzsche pointed to this when he realized that kind of religion wasn't providing that anymore. He realized, like, oh shit, we're in trouble. Like, when Nietzsche said God is dead, he wasn't celebrating. He was saying this is a problem. We need a foundation of our ethics and morality. So people have to find that for themselves, which is a big ask in postmodernity. There in terms of beauty, for me, that's absolute to enhance physical beauty, aesthetic beauty, to be creative, to live in a beautiful space. Like the world is very, very ugly and celebrates ugliness, which obviously we shouldn't take that too far. Of no one has to be a certain height or a certain weight, but let's re-embrace aesthetics and simply truth, that men love truth. Not social truth, not my truth, not what's convenient, the truth. And that search for truth is absolutely foundational to men generally and the Western man in particular, rather than this whole sort of feminine, feeling-based, relativistic nonsense. So I'd say there's an entire worldview shift that's needed. And yeah, lift weights too.
Yeah. Wow. There's a lot
There's
in
a lot
that.
there, huh?
Yeah.
There's a lot there. I've thought about this a fair bit.
There's a lot in that, mate. When did you get into embodiment, and why did you get into it at the time? And how has it served you?
Well, I mean, my story is the story of Western culture. I was hyper-cognitive. Also, you know, to tie into that last conversation, I was nihilistic, and as a result was hedonistic. If you don't believe in anything, you chase pleasure because there's no meaning, and and pleasure's not enough to deal with the losses of life, which I experienced, you know, through the loss of loved ones, suicides, loss of love, first loves, that kind of thing. And I realized that, you know, hedonism was just leading to addiction. I was drug addict, alcoholic by 17.
Really?
And so I walked into an Aikido dojo as a nihilistic, narcissistic, hedonistic, drug addict, alcoholic who was going, you know what, I'm going to kill myself next week, but let's see if there's anything out there.
Yeah.
I walked into an Aikido school and I went,
what was this?
This is at university, actually. I was in Leeds. It's
Leeds.
just like University Aikido Club. Ken Marston at the time was a teacher. If you're out there, Ken, good Yorkshireman.
What was you studying at Leeds?
Psychology.
Psychology.
Yeah, because everyone in my family was crazy. So I was like, I'll do psychology. That will help me. Of course it doesn't, you know. But it's interesting. And in a way, you know, psychology and Aikido brought together it's been my life for the last 27 years ago. But for me, it was when I saw Aikido, and it wasn't logical. I didn't understand. I didn't know those big words about nihilism and narcissism. That's post-analysis, right?
Yeah.
But that problem of the hypercognitive, hedonistic, you know, Westerner, that's the microcosm of the big problem that's now that all society is suffering from. And when I saw the embodiment of discipline and the male respect and the hierarchy, which logically I would say, I don't believe in hierarchies, man. But actually, you know, Aikido dojo, I was like, yeah, there's people I can learn from here. There's people that know something that I don't. They've got a skill that I want to apprentice in. And I just fell in love with it. I was terrible at it at first. I was not in my body at all. I was clumsy. I couldn't do it. But I was very stubborn, and I needed it, man. Like, I knew I needed it to survive. And I like clung to it like a drowning man to a raft, you know. And then gradually, you know, I got a bit obsessed with Aikido. Tend to obsess about things. And gradually I sort of loosened the attachment to Aikido in particular and realized that there was this bigger embodiment world out there. And, you know, now it doesn't matter if I'm just walking in the woods or lifting weights or doing dance. It's all the same.
I hear you, I hear you. What came after Aikido?
Meditation. I mean, there's a little bit of that in the martial arts. And then I started doing Aikido really beautifully and creatively. And people said, oh, you should dance. And I was like, fuck off, mate. You know, where I come from, that's like saying you're gay or something. I was like, no way, mate, you know. But then I realised, I love moving. Yeah. Just for the joy of it, you know. And most men don't find that. Women often find that, but most men don't. And then I thought, well, why not? And I did tango, I did conscious dance.
Amazing.
And then yoga, because we're doing a lot of stretching anyway. So it didn't seem weird to go to a stretching class. And then, you know, improv comedy, because I was just like, well, what else? I just started to go Feldenkrais, more obscure things that, you know, and I met some teachers from America who were kind of doing trauma work. And I was like, okay, well, what's trauma? This was 20 years ago, right? And that led me to do all the NGO stuff that I've done in areas of conflict. So that opened the trauma world up. And then I started working in business, which opened up the leadership world. And coaching it seemed just an obvious modality to work with. Therapy never really appealed to me. So coaching, coaching's got that positive. What are we going to do in the future? How are we going to make your life better?
Potentializing.
Yeah, and if you've got sports coaching background, to me it just made sense as someone that did sports already. So
okay. What's the most weirdest embodiment exercise or class you've ever attended?
Oh shit. I mean, you reminded me of one, like some of that polarity one, not you personally, but there was one that was a non-reactivity contest, right? It was 10 guys and 10 beautiful women. And they had to dance. And if you reacted, you were out. But if you were out, the partner went to the next guy. So if you imagine this...
What if you got hurt on?
Then you're out, if you were reactive in any way. And they weren't allowed to touch you, but they were allowed to do everything else, right? And... what would happen, and martial artists, I'm tough, and my girlfriend's one of the people, right, as well, and they're gyrating and they're all around you and you're breathing, staying, stoic practice, and eventually it's just me and one other guy, so there's 5 women around each of us just going crazy and stripping and accidentally brushing their nipples against, I mean, it was every 25-year-old guy's fantasy, frankly. But it was also very intense, and I didn't win, I should say, but it was you just made me think of that. But there's plenty of rolling around on the floor, crazy hippie ones, and these aren't necessary, but if you're so inclined, young people watching this, you can go have some fun in Thailand and do all this stuff.
Exactly. What advice would you give to young men growing up today in the West?
Yeah, I mean, giving advice to young people is always tricky, right? Because I think really they follow what you do, not what you say. And probably more people telling them stuff's not great. But if they were to ask, I'd say get an embodied practice, get in your body, find something that's meaningful to you. Don't listen to the people telling you you're bad and weak and men are bad, and, don't listen to that. Yeah. Stay away from the addictive substances. I had my own journey with that, so I could speak to that with some experience. And I think more, Marilyn Manson was asked that question once, and he said, I wouldn't tell him anything, I'd listen. And I think that is a starting point. And as I said, it's more who do I want to be that they might find some inspiration in.
Yeah. How has your embodiment journey influenced you in intimate relationships?
Yeah, I mean, hugely. I mean, embodiment, intimacy is an embodied thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, some of that for me has been a trauma journey of being able to be vulnerable and finding my own embodiment again and being at peace in my own body and being able to find connection through that. I mean, you mentioned sort of polarity-based stuff like David Data stuff, which is very helpful. And, if I'm not objectifying myself, it becomes easier to not objectify someone else, which,
of course,
sadly is some of the sort of dating culture. And I was caught up in that for a while. And, for me, there's an increased tenderness that comes with it.
Yeah, beautiful.
Like that's there's the warrior side of it, right? But then there's also the tender side of it. And that might be in a sexual context, or I don't know, in the context of playing with my niece and nephew, being playful, being able to get on the floor and play with them in a sort of sweet way, that's always been, I think that's big part of embodiment.
Great. I had a great question then.
No worries.
How long have you been coaching, Mark?
I've been running a school for coaches for nearly 15 years, and I was coaching for a few years before that. So getting on for a bit.
What are you seeing men present with these days?
What the men come with coaching with?
Like the men that come to you for help, for coaching, has anything changed in 15 years? Are you seeing some commonalities? What men are presenting with?
Hopelessness. I think more men are hitting a wall of meaninglessness. Yeah. That sort of Nietzschean problem has really has accelerated.
Yeah.
Gender issues, that's kind of the gender confusion stuff has really come in a way that it looks like the fall of Rome to me, and I couldn't have imagined that 20 years ago. Mental health issues as a norm, like the amount of people with young guys with fairly serious mental health issues, and with guys in the business world, older guys, they're just exhausted. It's really just like they're at breaking point. They're doing 3 people's jobs. They're trying to keep up with the pace of the modern world. I think they're the main things. So, the good news, like it sounds doom and gloom, is also that my job's got a lot easier. 20 years ago, I remember first teaching in the corporate world, and I'd mention meditation, and people look at me like I was, some Californian. They really think it was weird.
Yeah.
Whereas now they're like, oh yeah, I've got a Headspace app. My wife does yoga. She's always telling me I should come to yoga. Oh yeah, martial arts is good. I follow the UFC. I've heard jiu-jitsu is good. Like now it's way easier. Like people are, for example, the Ukraine team that I supervise, they work with soldiers in Ukraine, and most of them are quite young. And they're all very open to stuff around trauma. They've read Bezel van der Kolk's book, or they've seen a Gabor Mate video on something on TikTok about trauma. there's positive things. I feel like the world is. I've just been asked to write, say it before, this like mainstream W.H. Smith's book on trauma, which maybe for American listeners is like super like Walmart kind of level. I was like, wow, I never expected that. So I've been, I've nudged that along myself with big events and podcasts and things, but I think generally the world has started to wake up to the importance of embodiment and trauma and these kind of things. So that is. Young men say on the one hand they have this huge challenge, but they also have this availability of resource that my dad just didn't have.
I often think that about my own
brilliant.
dad. I know.
He just didn't have anything.
Nothing.
He had a drinking problem and he just didn't know where to go. He didn't like AA, and that was the only option.
Yeah.
And he didn't have anything, Whereas when I started to get sober, because I'm long-term sober myself now, I was like, well, there's Buddhism and there's martial arts and there's mindfulness and there's this kind of therapy and that kind of therapy. And like, I was much, I still had the spiritual battle of sobriety, but I had so many more resources and it was so much more normalized. I tell people I go to AA now. That used to be a shameful thing for guys. Now, like being in 12 steps is not a big deal.
So did you come through AA in your own journey?
Yeah, I did that. And
so you hit rock bottom and then you went to AA?
I did, yeah. I mean, for me, the martial arts and the embodiment stuff definitely helped. There's, in a way, you could look at addiction as Gabor Mate talks about this. You can look at addiction as a way to try and to self-regulate trauma, essentially. There's other parts to it, but that's some genetics and things. But for me, the self-regulatory techniques of martial arts were very helpful. And then 12-step, adds community. I think whatever problems you're facing, and this, again, the internet's brilliant, right? Like anyone out there, right? Whatever problems you're facing, you're not the only one. Yeah. Like if you've got one eye and you've got an addiction to crack, there's probably like a whole club of people of the Blind Crack Smokers Society, So it's like this, so like whatever your issue is, you can find support online, if not in person. And community is like, we heal in community, we learn in community. This whole like independent Sigma male thing is bullshit. Like no one's a Sigma male. Doesn't exist. It's just not, a lone wolf is a dead wolf. Yeah. So I just encourage people to, like, if they've got an issue, you are not the only one.
Yeah. Talk about how you'd work with anger in a man. The role of anger. Big topic. The role of anger, the wisdom of anger, the intimacy of anger. How would you?
Well, I did a podcast on 6 perspectives on anger, and it took me an hour. So there's a Buddhist perspective on it, which is very helpful. And then, for example, the non-violent communication perspective on it, the therapeutic perspective. Yeah. What I see a lot of men's groups doing is, doing your anger, but they're just practicing being angry, which isn't actually a very resourced state.
I hear you. They're not intimate with it.
It's not. I mean, for me, anger alerts me that a boundary's been crossed, right? So for me, it's an alerting emotion. It's like, hey, I'm experiencing some anxiety because my boundary's been crossed. Yeah. So in that sense, it's useful and it shouldn't be demonized. And also, it depends what you mean, right? Because what some people call anger, I might call hate, and I wouldn't want to encourage that. Or I might call it fierceness, and I'd say, brilliant, let's encourage that. Yeah. So what is the somatic state someone means by anger? So, people fetishize words or they demonize words. And I'd say, well, show me the actual embodiment that you mean. That's our starting point there.
Okay. We've got a good connection here, haven't we?
Yeah, it's a nice flow. You get good questions, man. Lots of fast fire. I'm keeping me on my toes.
It's just a fucking free coaching session. Stick your neck out because I know that you will. I'm telling myself that you will.
I usually do.
What do you see in me right now?
What do I see in you?
Energetically, I'm back from the UK. I've only been back from the UK. I've only been back from the US 4 days. I'm back in transition. I'm in Bath.
Yes, I mean, you're asking for what's called a somatic assessment, and it's quite a public format, which wouldn't be the container I'd normally recommend for that. I mean, before you were doing, when you were kind of enacting these guys, you were doing a lot of this forward kind of push against movement. Yeah. And it's like, I was wondering if that was the character or it was some of your, one of your patterns.
It's been a big family pattern, that one.
Yeah, the push against. Yeah. Do you want to show that a little bit? I mean,
it's just as that one.
Yeah, it makes sense. And when you do that, do it for a minute more if you're comfortable to. Obviously, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. What's the story that comes with that? Like, I'm what? Are you safe?
The
Are you?
story is it's kind of. It's kind of don't fucking embarrass me.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
There's a
that.
fierceness there.
Yeah, it's don't
Yeah.
fucking embarrass me.
Uh-huh.
Don't take the piss out of me, you know?
Yeah. And that might be a positive, right? Like
Sometimes.
Right. So let's just do the positive first. There was a time in your life you developed this. Might have been a family, might have been personally.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's probably pretty good for defending boundaries. Like, I get the impression that I wouldn't mess with you. You know what I mean? You've got a fierceness to you there, and yeah, there's that. And where is that less useful?
Well, I tell you what, I'd love to be able to do more of the time,
Yeah.
especially within intimate relationships. Thank you. You're right.
Yeah, and come back a little bit in that as well,
You know?
right? Like, soften and come back in that, like open up the posture a little bit. And I could experience
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
There we go.
You're right.
Now you take a breath.
I've got it. No drama. It's over. You're right. Thank you.
It's different. Yeah. It's the integrative breath there at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, because the format is a little bit public, there's work I would do that wouldn't feel ethical to do in this format.
But even that could be a little practice, couldn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And even like softening back and that breath again. And there's a different story that comes with that.
Yeah. Or even, let's say, because I'm not in a relationship now, but I'm actually 7.5 months into celibacy.
Mm-hmm.
By the time the end of the year comes, it'll be 10.5 months, and there's been some practices around it. It's been a beautiful thing. I'm kind of getting myself ready for my next relationship in January. But what I'm asking here is, let's say I'm in a relationship, something's coming up, there's a bit of a charge, there's a bit of agitation when I get out of the car. So I'm guessing that when I enter into the home for the dialogue, even just sitting back could be useful for me.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be a nice way to do it. And this hand to the chest movement,
You know,
seem
getting
to
used to
develop
sitting
there.
like that more and more. Yeah?
Yeah. There's only so much kind of coaching I want to do in this format, but that's sounds like you've got it worked up.
Good man. Mark, what's next for you, mate?
I want a quiet life. So I've spent my life running around the world. I've worked in 6 different war zones. I've had my adventures. I've done all my young man stuff.
Yeah.
And what I really love is a family, a dog, a cat, live in the woods, probably in Slovenia. I feel like Britain's got a bit too decadent for me. So I like the values there. I like the people there.
Beautiful.
And yeah, for me, quiet life. And, you know, the work with young guys is we've got a YouTube channel called Feral Philosophy. It's really nice to reach a lot of young guys and around the weightlifting. That feels really positive.
Great.
Yeah, I probably will write a book on that after I finish this like mainstream book I'm writing. But and I keep training coaches. That's the day job. I like that. You know, we're good at it. It's people want to train us to do this kind of stuff. It's very straightforward for me now.
Yeah.
So yeah, but personally, more peaceful life, less running around.
Yeah. Thanks for planting the seed of Slovenia.
Have a look. It's a nice
I'm going
country.
to look into that. And also, thanks for, because I judge you to be, you know, a go-getter, you know. Thanks for sharing with me that you're doing this work with your clients in the gym. Because I've lifted weights my whole life. I was a strength and conditioning coach, but I could integrate it more into my men's work.
Yeah.
So thanks for telling me that you're doing that. It kind of, I'm thinking, why the fuck am I not doing this? You know, it's almost as if I'm coming to the end of a spiritual phase.
Yeah, go
coming
full circle back to it.
And it's time to just slightly redefine things a little bit and bring the physical conditioning element into my men's work.
And it sounds like you've got those skills already. I mean, I'm doing a workshop in London and Amsterdam for PTs because it's on the tip of their tongue.
Yeah.
Because they understand they're working with embodiment. They just don't have a terminology and a framework for it. They know it's not just about carbs and muscles, and they understand that there's confidence and a bit more to it.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, those people that have that strength training background is very, very teachable.
Wonderful. And professionally, what's the next few years looking like for you professionally?
I mean, our core offer is called the Certificate of Embodiment Coaching, and we just make that better and better every year. Just
how many years is that? Months is that?
6 months, and then I mentor people for 2 years if they're really serious about it.
Nice.
To the younger people.
Nice.
6 months is like basic coach training around it. It's nice just to have one thing you do really, really well. Like we've done that versions of that for many, many years. We used to do it live in Moscow in England, and now we do it online. We've done a few years of that. It's a really organized German woman called Lena who runs it, and she kind of keeps me really organized, and so I can just do my thing, and then we improve it every single year. I think there's something about excellence, like a craftsperson that instead of doing a million things, just does one thing really, really well and keeps that is the craft, And then I have all these different trauma projects and this project and that project, but that's the kind of craft of what we do.
Great. And where can my viewers find you?
All the normal places. So embodimentunlimited.com. Embodimentunlimited.com is the website, and on there's a free book on embodiment if people want that. If they're coaches, it's like a coaching pack with to see embodied coaching. Instagram, I do 1 minute coaching, so if people want to see embodied coaching in action, cool. You like that, right?
I love
it's kind of fun, real quick. So they're the main places. Then all my books are on the normal places. Last one be the Embodiment podcast, and then Feral Philosophy for the young men's work. That's a bit different, but if you put embodiment into the internet, I come up basically.
Wonderful. Well, mate, it's gone so quick. Thank you so much for being honest. And thank you so much for showing up. And I really appreciate your time. And I hope we can connect again.
Yeah, I'd like that. Pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Hope you've enjoyed this interview. And I will see you on the next one.